great to be here. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been wonderful to work with you again, and love coming to TVT and seeing the community and working with you. So just thanks for taking a few minutes here. For those of us who are watching and who don't know much about your background, tell folks about your professional background and how you came to TVT.
So I started actually in public school education as a high school English teacher. And a few years in, wound up going to graduate school because I thought I was going to go work in museums. And so I was very interested in, it's a very narrow piece of history, but sort of the interwar period in Europe. And so I looked at different schools and different programs and just people I wanted to study with. And it just so happened a person I wanted to study with was in a Jewish studies department. So this very secular Jewish kid wound up going and getting a master's in Jewish studies. So did that, found I really, really, really missed teaching in those 2 years and decided museum life was not for me. And so wound up, because of the master's in Jewish studies, wound up in a Jewish day school. And that was sort of the beginning of my journey in Jewish day schools. I was at San Diego Jewish Academy for 12 years. I had an incredible mentor there. The division head, Jeff Davis, who hired me there, mentored me from, this just a teacher through, the ranks until he left to be head of school at TVT, and I took on the division head job there. And then he brought me to TVT 10 years ago now to be the division head. And when he retired, I took over the head of school role here, and I have loved every minute of this job. It's been great.
Well, I mean, I've seen the school over the 6-7 year trajectory, and I can know exactly why it's a wonderful place to work. And I of course I met Jeff as well, and so I know exactly what you mean by his being a great mentor and also being a great school leader. Talk about just how TVT as an institution and the what's changed over the years under Jeff's tenure and now under your tenure, and sort of just for somebody who's never stepped foot on the campus, what's it like? What's it about? What's the culture that it makes it such a great place to work and study?
So I'll tell you this quick little story because I think it encapsulates everything. When I left San Diego Jewish Academy, I to be blunt, I cried like a baby. I was so sad. I thought I'd never be at another school that had such a great community. And I came to TVT and thought, oh my gosh, there's better. I mean, the students were amazing. There is a kindness on this campus and a care for community that I've never seen in another school. And it struck me in the first month of being here. And part of what TVT, I think, does better than a lot of independent schools is living our mission and values deeply and intentionally all the time. You can ask students on this campus what our values are, and they can name our 6 values. The mission is so ingrained in the students here, they actually make fun of the end of it and talk about academics are important, or academics are important and character is importanter. They always joke about it. Like, there's a way in which this school, people expect to hear about the mission, people expect to hear about the values, people expect to be held to the values, and people love being here because of what that creates in the community on campus.
That's outstanding. Talk about how, and as we move toward this role and the reasons for it and where we're headed, maybe just to bridge to that, talk about the community at large and TVT's identity and where you see strengths and where you see opportunities for TVT to strengthen its message or just that connection to the surrounding area.
I think a quick bit of context is important here. Back to your previous question about changes since, over the last 10 years here, there was a real effort made to look at why weren't students coming to TVT. 10 years ago, why were people not choosing it? Why were people not valuing it? And TVT was very much seen as too Jewish. Like, you'll notice I keep talking about TVT. The TVT is Tarbut V'Torah. So there was a whole rebranding around this perception that if you are perceived to be a religious school, that somehow your academics aren't as strong. So TVT really planted its flag in the independent school movement rather than the religious day school movement. And part of that is planting the flag in inclusion and diversity. We are one of the few Jewish schools who not only accepts students of other faiths, but we don't have a quota on it. We don't talk about them as well. We do it, for diversity's sake. We talk about it because we want the world in here to reflect the world out there, because we believe it's the best way to educate students. And so messaging was bumpy in the interim years of that. When you change from being a school that had been perceived to be solely Jewish, it wasn't actually always solely Jewish. We just didn't talk about the students of other faith. And so it was very easy to market to the outside world about, who we are. And the outside is very accepting of that. And we've seen applications have skyrocketed. Our growth has been incredible. And we are now in a place where our internal constituents are on board with it. The people who sort of kind of weren't have graduated out. But I think the question for the future is, how do we continue to push ourselves to always be at the forefront of what we should be doing, and really questioning why we do things and how we do things and how we message things to people, because we don't want to become stagnant and stale in the sense of, well, this worked. We remessaged and we branded, and now we're TVT instead of Tarbut V'Torah, and oh, look what it did. Like, I think there's a way in which you can stay true to your core and stay true to your mission, but really rethink about how you message, what you're highlighting and so forth.
And I feel like what's implicit in all that is that strategy element to marketing communications that really, is going to guide the school and then other areas of it, both external facing ones like advancement and enrollment, but also, the academic program and whatnot. And so just maybe talk about, why for you this role is such a key role right now, and what you'd be looking for in a great partner who will be reporting right to you to oversee marketing and communications.
I think I value what this role and what the expertise brings to a school. I mean, I've seen over the course of this past year, in the absence of this role, that everything's fine. Admissions is fine. Enrollment is fine. Advancement is fine. But the buzz is missing. The buzz about the great things we're doing. Like, yes, I'm out there beating the drum and I talk about these things, but what is the coordinated effort to get our message out there? What is the coordinated effort to make sure we're attracting the families to apply that we want to attract? That it's not just, hey, we're this type of school, apply to us, but how are we focusing that message? And that's not in the wheelhouse of the admissions department. And, how are we talking about our message to major donors to increase our donor pool? And it's not just, hey, we're a great school and this is what we do. I think there's a real skill and talent to be able to nuance message to different constituencies. How do you message to increase, an application pool in this area from this constituent group? Where are we thinking about messaging and what does that messaging look like, rather than sort of a very boilerplate kind of messaging, which is what I think we've been doing in the absence of this role.
Well, TVT is anything but boilerplate when
Right.
I've walked on campus, and that's sort of
Yeah.
the beauty is that this is not a rebrand. This is not sort
No.
of a start over. It is incredible when one comes onto campus, sees the learning in action, sees the facility, sees the people. I mean, you've actually got all the sort of the program, the people, the place, the ingredients are right there.
Oh
And in
yeah.
a way, it's just finding ways to tell that story and that message in creative channels, uh, a little bit internally, but as you said, folks clearly already get it who are there,
Right.
but also externally as well.
Right. I mean, listen, we very much know who we are, and we're very successful at who we are. It is simply, how do we have, like you said earlier, that strategy that ensures the messaging is as high level as our academics, is as high level as what we're doing in all of the departments across campus. And right now you have a head of school trying to manage it who has no background in marketing. So,
but who will enjoy working with a strategic partner?
I yes.
Sure. And on that
Sure.
note, even though that may not be your background, head of school has to be a good storyteller. So I'm gonna let you conclude with just tell me one story. And I'm gonna say to you to tie it to what you said earlier. You said you cried when you left San Diego Jewish Academy. Tell me about a time, maybe early on, when like the tears just went away. Something that you just said, "Wow, I know I'm home," or "This is the place," and something about the school that just sticks with you to this day, either experience in the classroom or with community members, or some moment that just like this is TVT in a nutshell.
So I'm going to kind of answer your question
That's fine.
in this sense. I do fancy myself a very good storyteller, and I find myself at TVT not having to write my speeches, finding myself being able to, in the moment, talk about whether it's Papa Gelman, or being able to tell the story of going down to the TK classroom and the students in there and things that are happening in the TK classroom. And it doesn't need to be scripted, because there are so many moments on this campus that allow you to connect with families. And I think that's what I think I do very well as a head, is making the story personal. So when I run into you on campus, I had this experience with a parent the other day with her little boy who is now in kinder, and we were joking that he always used to be a hugger, and he's reached that very independent phase now. But the other day, leaving campus, I said it was very cute. He gave me the little fist bump to say goodbye. He got about 4 steps away, turned around and ran back and gave me a hug. And the mom was like, "Don't tell his grandma. She will be devastated because he won't even hug grandma anymore." I think it's being around campus and having all of those little stories in your pocket, so that when you run into people, whether it's a parent at pickup or it's speaking to the K-12 Kabbalat Shabbat, that you have a story that resonates. And that means getting out of your office and actually being part of what's happening on campus, so that those stories just come out.
Well, when we walked around campus last week, I saw that, and you were, the little boy with the bug, and just your interactions. I could tell it's authentic for you, and it's certainly an authentic sort of element of TVT in general. Just that sort of walk and the human connection, and just those little personal anecdotes and moments that make it such a great place. So
it's a
it was great to see.
My very first mentor teacher told me, "Remember, when you hire, you can always teach someone how to teach. You can't teach them how to love children. Always hire the person who loves children."
Yeah, absolutely.
So and that's what TVT has. You have a lot of people really invested in the lives of these children and what's best for them. And it's an awesome place to be. I love this place.
I can tell. Well, appreciate it, Jill. And hopefully we're going to find you somebody who also loves children through the lens of marketing and communications and wants to tell their story. And bringing out to the world. So thank you very much for your time here, and look forward to working with you on the
Thanks, Gabe.
search. Okay.